Hi guys, it's Tammy. I know it's been a while since I've done a video, and I want to apologize. There's been a lot going on. It's been like since it's February right now, and the last video I think I posted was in maybe September, and the video was actually from a few months before. It was probably one of my chemos that I had just started because I come off of a hospice. So I wanted to apologize for not posting and kind of leaving you guys hanging. I had some problems with my computer that took some time to pay to have fixed. And then I had a lot of physical problems that caused me to like medical problems that caused me not to be able to feel so hot and not be able to post. So this is first of all my apology, asking for your forgiveness, and letting you know that I did post a few comments in my in my comment area, letting people know what was going on a few times on a few of my videos, and that I was posting on Instagram and a few TikTok, and well, actually now a lot of TikTok videos, because they're like only a minute, and they don't require any kind of like really editing or anything. So I found that easier to do when I was feeling better. So if you I'll put my information about my TikTok and Instagram down below if you want to check out that, because I still will be doing that. But I'm going to be getting back to doing some of my actual YouTube videos again. So I'm just going to kind of give you a quick update. I've been doing the chemo, and I've had, the chemo is a very difficult chemo for me because I have it once a week for 2 weeks in a row, and then 1 week off where I have all my tests and my doctor's appointments. And that's usually like the buildup of the 2 weeks, and I'm not doing good. And then I might have maybe 1 or 2 days where I'm feeling okay before it's time to do it again. And this chemo lowers your immune system big time, your blood levels. And so there's been a lot of times where I've been really not able to, I've had to take off a few weeks to get my blood levels back up. And it's caused me to catch different viruses and stuff, things that are going around. And I have to tell you right now, I am right now having some massive side effects from my chemo where it causes massive pain and what are they called, spasms in my hands and my legs. And right now I have been having a spasm in my foot for the past like 2 minutes. If I seem like I am like not really with it, that's why. It is not going away, and it's very painful. So I just had to say something, and I hope it goes away because it really hurts. I've been waiting all night till the medicine kicked in, hoping that it wouldn't cause a problem. And as soon as I sit down, it does it again. So maybe I should be doing this standing up. I don't know. Okay, it's starting to go away. Sorry about that. Okay. So in I think it was the end of September or October, I had a PET scan to see how the chemo was doing. And there's this weird thing about a PET scan. Well, they tell you have to fast. And I've never had a problem with that. And the day that I have to take my medicine before I go. So I get permission to just take it with some water. And that's all I have. I've always, had no issue with fasting. And this time I didn't have an issue with fasting. However, when the scans came in, like there were certain areas that showed up with like this haze or something. And they said it was because what they believe in they usually see is because the person didn't fast. That's why this kind of haze shows up. And my doctor's like, I know you don't have an issue with fasting. For those of you who don't know, I've had, for many years, I had issues with anorexia. So, like, of all the people he would be worried about not fasting, it wasn't me. He's like, you knew you were supposed to fast, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, you did fast, right? And I'm like, yeah, I fasted. It wasn't an issue. So, we're not sure why it was showing this haze in certain areas, but the areas that did show either growth or shrinkage or nothing, um, they they looked at that area, and there were some areas that did have some growth. I will be honest, and I mean, I have two different cancers. It's the chemo might be working for one, or it just sometimes cancer finds another way to start growing. So maybe it had stopped, or maybe it didn't start up, or maybe because I have been needing to take breaks, it just hasn't gotten into a phase where it's shrinking enough yet in those areas. And there were areas that didn't show anything, it just looked the same. And then there were areas that it actually did shrink. And those areas, my doctor's like, they're areas that we are concerned about. One area is a tumor that sits on top of one of my main blood vessels that goes to my heart. And that area, that tumor shrank. And then another tumor that is growing into my heart also grew. Also shrunk a nice amount, that they were actually very happy. And they said, for those two alone, we would say that's showing us progress and we want you to continue. And there were a few other areas. So I am continuing, and thank God those areas aren't, growing. I did know there were some areas that were growing because I could physically see tumors in my chest wall growing and getting bigger. But they were just happy enough to see some areas that weren't growing. So anyway, that was in like August or October, somewhere in the end of September, October. I ended up getting a virus and had to take off 2 weeks. And then I had 1 week of my next chemo, and I ended up going in and having these weird spots on my head that didn't itch, but they hurt. And it was really weird. I never had anything like that. And so I just told my nurse, and she went, was kind of really concerned and went right away to get our nurse practitioner. And right away they knew what it was. They said that they asked, have you ever had chickenpox? And I'm like, no, because I've always been told. I had measles when I was a kid. I ended up in the hospital when I was really young. I ended up having what's called, what is it called? Failure to thrive when I was like 2 or something, and I was in the hospital for a while, and I had measles, but I had never gotten chickenpox. And it's all, that's what it says in my medical things. But they said, this is definitely, you definitely had to have it because this right here that's on your head is shingles. And you can't have shingles if you didn't have the chickenpox virus at one time. So I don't know why, but I must have had it when I was a kid. But this was it, shingles, and it was very painful, and it ended up growing into my eye. So I had to go to an optometrist because my eye was like, my whole face on that side was swollen. And my eye vision was not good, and it was blurry, and it was seeing double and stuff like that. And I think it was about 2 weeks before that, I had problems with, I have optical migraines, which isn't the actual pain. It's more of a pressure, and you keep seeing those like floaters for like 2 hours straight, and they don't go away. But with this one, I was like for 2 weeks in bed in so much pain from these migraines. I never had migraines before. So I don't know if that had something to do with the shingles starting, but a few weeks later I ended up with shingles in my eye. It didn't affect my actual vision. I got the okay from the eye doctor. And I had to take, I think it was 3 weeks off from chemo. Couldn't go into the doctor or anything. And it was, you know, you see those commercials that say, you know, if you can get the vaccine for the shingles, go ahead and do that. It's because you don't want to end up with shingles. You don't want to end up with shingles. And you can get it again. I can get it again if my immune system gets low. So I don't want it. So I'm telling you, please, if you have had, or even if you're not like me, I thought I didn't have chickenpox. Somehow, I don't know if there's a way to test if you had it, but if you can get the virus, get the vaccine for shingles, please get it. So you don't have to go through that. So I ended up, like I said, not being able to do chemo for 3 weeks, and then I ended up doing it for, you know, a few more weeks, and then 2 weeks before, well, I guess it was the second week of November, right before Thanksgiving, I ended up having chemo. I had my first chemo and then the second chemo, and I was really sick, and I ended up going in that last week where I'm normally starting to get better, and I got fluids, and I wasn't feeling good, so I ended up going back into the doctor's office 2 days later to get fluids again to see, you know, if I had any of my blood levels that were not good or something was off from chemo, because that's what I thought it was, and I really wasn't doing good. And I had, they did a COVID test, and it came back inconclusive, so they're like, you know, you just must be really still fighting, your immune system must not be good. Let's give you another week off from chemo, because the next week I was supposed to I had no chemo that week, and then they said, let's give you another week without chemo to get your immune system back up, and maybe you'll feel better and stuff. So I started feeling more sick the next day, and they're like, go have another COVID test. So I had another COVID test, and then 2 days later, my son, I peaked a fever, and my son 2 days later ended up spiking a fever. He had already had, my daughter the week before, I think, had a sore throat all weekend and wasn't feeling too good, and her father said that he had taken her to the doctors, and they tested her for strep throat, and that she had strep throat. So Christian kind of started out with a sore throat. And so we thought, well, maybe you have strep throat too, and we called the doctor, but then he got the fever 2 days after I had my second test, and I got the call that I had COVID. So it wasn't my chemo side effects, it was actually, I had COVID. And I just want to say, for those of you who have cancer, don't assume that your side effects are from your cancer or your treatment, because that's twice where I thought that I had side effects, sicknesses, something was going wrong, and I assumed it was my cancer or my chemo, and it wasn't. First time it was the shingles, and then COVID. And I think if I would have thought about it sooner, I would have had my kids away from me, and my son may have not have gotten it because he ended up having COVID also.
Hey everyone, I wanted to give you guys an update, updates as the COVID had changed, but for those of you who had COVID, you know, side effects, you kind of don't know one day to the next, and you end up too sick to be able to do anything. So most of the time I slept, and then I took care of my son, who, if you didn't know, also has COVID. We're both getting better, but it's not that great. But I've learned a few things. Number one, if you can try to get up, don't stay laying down, because you can end up with the COVID pneumonia. So I'm very glad that my son is here, and I have to take care of him, because that kind of makes me get up and do stuff, and it helps me not be depressed. And then our side effects are so different, and having cancer, you never know what the side effects are. So those are two things I've learned.
Our side effects, our COVID was like very different. Like how his manifested was very different than mine. We did come across the same symptoms, but like on different days, and it lasted different amount of time. And he is 19 years old, so um, and he has asthma, so he really had a really difficult time breathing. And they thought I was not going to do good with my lungs because I have tumors in my lungs. I've had blood clots in my lungs, infections in my lungs tons of times. So they thought it was going to go right to my lungs. It didn't get stuck in my lungs. He had it worse in his lungs, and we actually almost took him to the hospital one night because he thought he was going to die. He seriously didn't want to go to sleep because he was afraid he would stop breathing when he was sleeping and die. And I told him, you know what, Christian, we both slept on the couch, and we have the bed kind of couch where the ends go out. So I said, I will stay up all night long. Even though I was not feeling good, I told him, I will stay up all night long and make sure you're breathing all night long. But I need you to fall asleep. You have to. And he needed to take medicine. And he finally did. He fell asleep. And I did like every 20 minutes or so, I would put my hands on him if I wasn't positive he was breathing or not. And there were times where he woke up because my hand was cold and, he jumped. But the next day he was doing much better. And then, that next night was not good again. But we both were managed to stay out of the hospital. And his basically went about 2 weeks, and he was getting better, and then he just got better and better, and it was good. Mine, it took much longer for me to get better. We both were sick for Thanksgiving, and then Christmas came, and we normally do Christmas at my brother's house with my family on Christmas Eve, and then we have either Christmas morning, they wake up at my house, or they come at 12 o'clock and they spend the rest of Christmas and that next day with me. Well, it was just me and Christian on Christmas. Also, I wasn't able to go shopping or do anything because my money that I had didn't come in until the week before Christmas, and I was sick, and I basically got whatever I could online, but because of the way packing was and delivery, barely anything came in on Christmas. But we did basically Christmas the next day, and it was not a good Christmas at all. But I did get to see my kids, but still, and I was with Christian, and we didn't do any kind of Christmas normal things. We did, Christian and I, when we were feeling better, especially Christian, we put our Christmas decorations up, and we put our tree up. So we did have that up, and I ended up not getting better with my cancer and my chemo. They wouldn't even let me into the office until I had a negative COVID test. And I ended up not having a negative COVID test until I think it was the 9th of January. And the 10th is when I started chemo the next day. Or no, it was the 8th of January. The 9th I went in to see my doctor, and then the following day I had treatment. So it was not fun. If you can get the vaccine for that, I don't know if you're an anti-vaxxer, but I'm asking you, please consider it. But we both have the immunity now, so I'm happy about that. Although we're still very careful because there's all the other types of variances. I don't know if I can catch them, and I hope I can't, but I'm still doing the same exact precautions.